I'm Sapphire, your Cultorium historian, and welcome to today's episode. Today we're going to be doing a little bit different of a presentation today. I put together a really interesting PowerPoint that I will be showing you all and discussing with you all. I have been working on it for the past couple of weeks, and I really had a lot of fun doing it. So if you like this format of presenting, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. I would like to welcome and thank all of you who have recently joined the channel by subscribing. Thank you very much. And for those of you who aren't subscribed yet, please feel free to subscribe. Your support means the world to me. I am a historian. I like to research American occult history. In specifics, I really enjoy the colonial to Reconstruction era. They are just my fun little niches. But I am a freelance historian. I like to do personal projects for people. I really enjoy when people reach out and ask for me to help them with genealogy. So, if you're in need of that sort of thing, I am here. You can always reach out. I also have a Patreon where we do a little bit of an archive research once a month, and I post all of the behind the scenes to the research that I do, as well as any of the heavier resources that I use, the journals that I use that aren't quite common access. I subscribe to quite a few of the academic resources, and I like to make them available whenever I can. We're just going to be covering the tip of the iceberg today. I don't want to go too heavy into it unless you all want more, so be sure to like and subscribe, comment below if you'd like to see more of this topic within the channel. Let's cover occultism within colonial America first. What is occultism? Occultism is the understanding and study of things that we do not understand. It was very prevalent within American colonies during the foundation. It was also very prevalent within Europe, and it came along with the colonists to settle the New World. Occultism within colonial America became the foundation of science during the Enlightenment. So, the true definition of the occult is a mix of hidden or esoteric practices like astrology, alchemy, divination, folk magic, and witchcraft, which is often suppressed by mainstream religion and is still very culturally present to this day. Occultism, as you can tell from the topics of astrology, alchemy, divination, folk magic, and witchcraft, a lot of those stem into rough outline for our curiosity in order for the Enlightenment to shape into our defined boundaries that we have today. Political elites and philosophers were heavy into occultism. Astrology was used as both a spiritual and medical tool. Some physicians would time treatments and surgeries based on planetary alignments. And as you could see here, we have a diagram that would have been used to associate the star signs to specific organs within the body. My apologies, sir. We can't cure your cancer. The stars just aren't aligned. Have you tried leeches? Renaissance to early 1600s peak integration. This was during the time of the globalization era. This was the time of the quote discovery of the Americas. This would have been the period in which science and understanding was heavily tied to that of the stars, that of the heavens. And we can see its influence even in art, general life, religion. We see that figures such as Marsilio Ficino, who lived between 1433 and 1499, he was a major figure within the Italian Renaissance who revived Neoplatism and blended astrology with philosophy and medicine. He believed planetary influences affected the soul and could be harmonized through music and magic. We also have Johannes Kepler from 1571 to 1630. He was famous for his laws of planetary motion, but he also practiced astrology. He rejected some astrological traditions, but he still followed his horoscopes and believed in celestial influences within human affairs. And last but not least, for our coverage today for the Renaissance, my personal favorite, and probably the most famous or infamous, Nostradamus, who lived between 1503 to 1566. He was an apothecary, an astrologer, and a seer best known for cryptic predictions, especially those depicting the end of the world. He used astrological methods for his prophecies, and he blended mysticism with medical knowledge and almanac writing. It was more of a philosophical curiosity than a science, even during the Renaissance period. So, this is the timeline that we're going to be covering today. We're going to do a brief understanding of the Renaissance to early 1600s, which would be the peak integration. So, that's kind of what we just talked about. We're going to talk about the signs of decline during the mid 1700s, and then the Enlightenment rationalism, which I like to call the death of astrology. During the mid 1900s, i.e., the hippie revolution, we saw the revival of astrology. And then today, we have the reborn understanding of astrology of what we know and understand. In the ancient world, there was no divide. Astrology was astronomy. Babylonian, Egyptian, Greek, and Islamic scholars all tracked stars for both celestial navigation and calendars, and omens, timing, and fate. As Christianity gained dominance, astrology got really complicated really fast. Some church figures really embraced it, while others condemned it. It became this weird in between, tolerated only when useful, banned when threatened. This split at the heart of the Enlightenment had some key contradictions. Scholars relied on planetary movement, but rejected planetary meaning, but still privately consulted horoscopes, almanacs, and omens. Now, the founding fathers had a deep love of esoterica, whether they admitted it or not. But we can see it through their writings, through their research, through their letters to each other. The Enlightenment figures such as Franklin and Jefferson dabbled heavily within occult ideas. The late 1600s to the Enlightenment rising. This is the period in which the Americans are now being colonized, territories are being fought over, Native American influences are being felt within the colonies. And we also see a heavy rise within the religious movement. The Reformation had already happened about 2 centuries prior, but its effects were definitely being felt within the colonies. Colonies, especially from Britain, were coming for religious freedoms, and we have during this late 1600s, 1690s, the infamous witchcraft trials that took place within New England's Puritan colony. Science and reason during this time were gaining prominence, especially post witchcraft trials. A lot of elites and socialites thought that the witchcraft trials were silly, and it really put a spotlight on what Americans especially perceived as mysticism and the occult and negative. Magic and astrology started to be heavily dismissed, and it was mostly retained by rural folk, but it stopped being recorded. The 1710s to 1720s was the early American transition. Almanacs were still widely used, and they contained very heavily astrological influences still. But the elite did not refer to these almanacs. We have key figures like Nathaniel Ames. He was a almanac maker during the time, and you can see from what we're going to show you here soon that the trend within the almanac did start to lean away pretty rapidly from using astrology. So, who was Ezra Stiles? He was a man between worlds. He was Yale educated, a minister, a scientist, and a polymath. He had a lifelong friendship with Benjamin Franklin, and he was eventually the president of Yale and a founding member of the Rhode Island Abolitionist Society. He conducted experiments in electricity, he studied Hebrew, and he researched Native American cultures. He also had a very extensive hobby in occultism. He had a very strong view in astrology and magic, believing that it was shattered planks floating in the sea of human activity. He described magic and astrology as in a state of terminal decay, and he believed that they were being swept away by the process of the Enlightenment. Yet he still made a huge effort to document the persistence among almanac makers and rural communities. He matters today because he became the symbol of Enlightenment era contradictions. He was a rational scientist who recognized the cultural power of magic and participated in scientific progress while mourning the disenchantment of the world. His writings reflect how magic didn't die, but transformed into something new. The almanac, or farmer's almanac, is something that is no longer as popular within American history, but we can see it still being sold on the shelves of many stores. Within it, back before the Enlightenment, held a very large amount of astrological forecasts, weather predictions, farming calendars, medical advice, moral proverbs, and local lore. During the Enlightenment, the ideas of science was spreading, and astrology was increasingly seen as just superstition. The almanac authors adapted to this, simplifying, omitting, or explaining symbols to reach a broader skeptical audience. And a lot of that work came from Nathaniel Ames. He also lamented that those skills in the occult are scarce 1 in 100. And from our look here with the 1775 Farmer's Almanac, you can see symbols for the planetary alignments, but you don't really see the definitions of them so much. But when we look here at the 1731 Farmer's Almanac, the planets' daily motions and their aspects is front page. We can see here in the 1744, of course that year was a leap year, there are a covering of the lunar eclipses, and there is a front page understanding of the planetary motions and how they would affect. But here within the front page, that the effect of the moon is not on personal beliefs, but on how it affects the planet. So, more of a scientific mindset. And then finally, in the 1810 Almanac, you can see no reference whatsoever of there being any beliefs, any astrological understandings, nothing. Post Enlightenment, the folklorization of astrology became very prevalent. It's the process where astrology was once practiced by elite scholars and doctors, but it became embedded within rural and working class cultures. No one really saw that astrology was considered scientific at this point. It remained functionally useful in daily life, such as timing for births, planting crops, treating illness, and reading omens. It was often structured in uncertainty for people without access to formal education or medical care, but the astrological worldview was kept alive even when the elite culture rejected it. It became deeply regional and localized. We have Appalachian astrology, African American root work, Pennsylvania touch practices, and so forth. So, even though I consider this to be the post death of astrology, it's mostly in an academic sense at this time. It's still very much alive within folk communities, localized communities, but within the academic fields, research fields, and uh, what we consider to be the great mind thinkers of the time, it was not prevalent. During the 1960s and 1970s, astrology became synonymous with spiritual awakening, rebellion, and self discovery. Key values of counterculture. The sun sign astrology went mainstream. Newspaper horoscopes exploded in popularity. People who had never explored astrology suddenly knew their sign, and the "What's your sign" pickup line became synonymous with pop culture canon. Books such as Linda Goodman's Sun Signs, written in 1968, it became the first astrology book to make the New York Times bestseller list. She made astrology approachable, poetic, and personality based, and sparked a publishing trend that we still see today. You can't go into a bookstore without seeing some sort of astrology on some bookshelf close to the door. Astrology became linked to feminism. Women turned to astrology as a tool for self reflection and empowerment, and it provided a spiritual language outside of organized religion, fitting with both feminist and New Age ideals. We do have a very special person to thank for the academic understanding of astrology within the modern revival. In the 20th century, astrology shifted from prediction to personal exploration. It became synonymous with self-help, identity, therapy and relationships, spiritual branding and social media culture. And we have this gentleman here to thank for a lot of that, as Carl Jung really set a new understanding of astrology, especially within the psychological field. He introduced the idea of archetypes and the collective unconscious. He made astrology a tool for introspection rather than a strict fate, and he helped to reclaim astrology within intellectual circles, if possibly quietly. Within the 1960s and 70s, birth chart readings, zodiac columns, the rise of sun sign astrology skyrocketed. And within the 2000s to now, we have astrology apps, meme culture, and TikTok horoscopes are prevalent. And between millennials and Gen Z, just about everyone, at least at one point, looks up their sun sign. What does this mean? It means astrology followed the same path as folklore. It became marginalized and then revived. It adapted to human needs, identity, meaning, and it controlled in chaos. It's still criticized by science today, but people still believe, including many scientists themselves. So I leave you with one last question. What do you see when you look at the stars? Thank you very much for watching my presentation today, and I really appreciate all of the love and support that all of you have been giving lately. It means everything to the channel, and to me. Again, this is a Cultorium historian. Be sure to like and subscribe to the video, and if you feel daring enough, join the Patreon at patreon.com/occultorium historian. There you can find exclusive behind the scenes, some research articles, we do a monthly deep dive into a topic, and we just have a lot of fun. But until next time, stay curious.